I lied to get out of a date and now we're planning our wedding. The pregnancy test was positive. I stared at the 2 pink lines in my boss's private bathroom, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it in the toilet. This couldn't be happening. Not now. Not with Derek's baby when I was finally ready to leave him after catching him with my sister 3 nights ago. The timing was cruel enough to feel like punishment from the universe. My phone buzzed with a text from Oliver, the guy I'd matched with 2 weeks ago, but kept postponing because Derek kept promising things would change. Still on for dinner tonight? That new Italian place at 8? I'd already canceled twice. Once more and he'd definitely give up, which would be smart since I was apparently pregnant with another man's child. Family emergency, I typed back. My aunt is in the hospital. Rain check? It was easier than explaining that my life had just imploded in a public restroom. Oliver responded immediately. Which hospital? I'll meet you there. My stomach dropped. Why couldn't he just accept the excuse like a normal person? It's fine. She's stable now, I replied, but my phone was already ringing. Oliver's name flashed on the screen. I answered reluctantly. Mia? I'm already in my car. What hospital? His voice carried genuine concern that made lying feel even worse. You don't need to come. Really? I'm handling it. But I could hear his car starting in the background. 20 minutes later, Oliver was knocking on my apartment door. I'd managed to hide the pregnancy test and splash cold water on my face, but I still looked like someone who'd been crying in a bathroom stall. Hey, I said, opening the door just wide enough to see him holding flowers and a bag from the pharmacy. I thought your aunt was in the hospital, he said gently. She was discharged. False alarm. The lie tasted bitter. Oliver studied my face with the kind of attention that made me realize he was actually intelligent, unlike the last several guys I'd dated. Can I come in? You look like you've been crying. I stepped aside because refusing would have been more suspicious than whatever disaster my apartment currently represented. Oliver took in my living room without comment. Empty wine bottles from my sister confrontation, tissues everywhere, Derek's clothes still scattered around because I hadn't had the energy to throw them out yet. So your aunt is fine? He asked, setting the flowers on my counter. These are for you, by the way. And I brought tea. Chamomile is supposed to help with stress. The kindness in his voice broke something inside me. I started crying again, which was becoming a disturbing pattern. I lied. I sobbed. There's no aunt in the hospital. I couldn't handle dinner tonight. My life is completely falling apart, and I didn't want you to see me like this. Oliver sat down beside me without asking, maintaining careful distance but staying close enough to offer support. What's falling apart? He asked simply. No judgment, no irritation about the deception, just genuine curiosity about what had made me invent a medical emergency. Everything, I said, which was dramatically vague but felt accurate. My relationship ended badly. My family situation is complicated, and I just found out something that changes everything about my future plans. Oliver handed me tissues without making it seem like charity. Do you want to talk about it, or do you want me to distract you from it? The question was perfect. Most people either pushed for details or awkwardly changed subjects. Oliver was offering me actual choice about how to handle my crisis. Distract me, I said immediately. Okay, what's the weirdest job you've ever had? Oliver asked, settling back against my couch like he planned to stay a while. The randomness of the question made me laugh despite everything. I was a professional line stander, I admitted. Rich people in Manhattan paid me to wait in line for restaurant reservations, Broadway tickets, sample sales. I once stood outside Kronitz for 6 hours. That's brilliant, Oliver said admiringly. Entrepreneurial approach to urban inconvenience. I respect that. He told me about his brief career as a birthday party magician, complete with a story about accidentally making a rabbit disappear permanently during a 5-year-old's party. The parents were furious, the kids were traumatized, and Oliver was banned from 3 different party venues. We talked for 2 hours. Oliver made tea while I ordered Chinese food, and somehow my apartment disaster zone started feeling cozy instead of pathetic. He didn't ask about my relationship or my family situation or what news had derailed my evening. He just existed in my space without trying to fix anything, which was more healing than any advice could have been. I should probably go, Oliver said around 10:30. But I'm glad you're okay, even if your aunt wasn't actually in the hospital. The gentle teasing in his voice made the lying seem less horrible. Thank you for coming over, I said, and for not being weird about me being a complete mess. Oliver paused at my door. Everyone's a mess sometimes. The trick is finding someone who doesn't mind your particular brand of chaos. After he left, I sat in my clean kitchen drinking the tea he'd made and thinking about how different the evening had turned out from what I'd expected. Derek had never once shown up when I was crying. He'd never brought flowers or asked how he could help or stayed to talk until my crisis felt manageable. Oliver had done all of that for someone he barely knew, without expecting anything in return. The pregnancy test was still hidden in my bathroom drawer, its pink lines unchanged by my temporary reprieve from reality. I'd have to deal with Derek and the conversation about our future and the impossible decisions about what came next. But for the first time since seeing those 2 lines, I didn't feel completely alone. Oliver had demonstrated something I'd forgotten existed. Unconditional kindness from someone who wanted nothing but to make my bad day better. I texted him the next morning. Thank you for last night. You saved me from a complete breakdown. He responded within minutes. Happy to help. How are you feeling today? I stared at the message, unsure how to answer. Pregnant, terrified, grateful, confused. None of those seemed appropriate for someone I'd lied to about hospital visits. Better, I typed back. Want to try that dinner again tonight? This time I meant it. Whatever happened with Derek and the pregnancy, I wanted to spend more time with someone who showed up when people needed help. Oliver agreed immediately, suggesting the same Italian place but offering to cook instead if I preferred staying home. The restaurant was small and warm, filled with the kind of families and couples who came there regularly. Oliver had made reservations under his name, which felt oddly significant after months of Derek never planning anything more than 20 minutes in advance. We ordered wine. Then I remembered I probably shouldn't drink and switched to sparkling water. "Are you driving tonight?" Oliver asked, noticing the change. "Just being careful," I said vaguely. The pregnancy felt too complicated to explain during our first official date, especially when I hadn't decided what to do about it yet. Oliver accepted my answer without pushing, which reminded me why I'd wanted to see him again. Dinner conversation flowed easily. Oliver was a high school English teacher who actually enjoyed his job, which seemed rare among the people I knew. He talked about his students with genuine affection, sharing stories about breakthrough moments and creative projects. His enthusiasm was infectious in a way that made me remember why I'd originally wanted to become a graphic designer before getting stuck in corporate marketing. "What made you want to teach?" I asked. Oliver thought about it seriously. "I had this teacher in 10th grade who changed everything for me. Mrs. Park. I was failing most of my classes, getting in trouble constantly, pretty much headed for dropping out. She kept me after school one day and asked what I actually cared about. Not what I was supposed to care about, but what genuinely mattered to me." He paused to take a sip of wine. "I told her I liked writing but thought it was stupid because my dad always said creative careers were for people who couldn't handle real work. She gave me this assignment to write about anything I wanted, as long as it was true. I wrote about what it felt like to disappoint everyone who expected better from you." "What happened?" I asked, completely absorbed in his story. "She submitted it to a young writers contest without telling me. I won second place and got published in this little literary magazine. First time anyone had ever told me I was good at something that mattered. Mrs. Park came to the award ceremony with my parents, and afterwards she told me that helping people discover their own potential was better than any other job she could imagine." The story explains so much about why Oliver had shown up at my apartment with flowers and stayed to help a virtual stranger through an emotional crisis. He'd been rescued by someone who cared about his well-being without expecting anything in return. Now he was paying that forward by showing up for other people the same way. "Do you still write?" I asked. Oliver smiled. "Every morning before school. Nothing publishable, just thoughts and observations. It keeps me centered." I thought about Derek, who spent his mornings scrolling through social media and complaining about having to get dressed for work. The contrast was becoming impossible to ignore. After dinner, we walked around the neighborhood, stopping to look at street art and talking about books we'd loved as kids. Oliver knew the names of the artists who'd created most of the murals, and he had opinions about which ones worked better than others. His observations were thoughtful without being pretentious, educated without being condescending. "I live just around the corner," I said as we approached my building. "Do you want to come up for coffee?" The invitation surprised me as much as it probably surprised Oliver. I wasn't ready for anything physical, but I also wasn't ready for the evening to end. Oliver looked pleased but cautious. "Are you sure? Last night was pretty intense. I don't want to complicate things if you're still processing." The consideration in his response made my chest tight with something that might have been falling in love. "I'm sure," I said. "I promise not to invent any medical emergencies this time." Oliver laughed. "Deal. But I'm keeping the flowers as insurance in case you try to fake appendicitis." Upstairs, I made actual coffee while Oliver examined my bookshelves and asked about the art prints on my walls. He recognized more of the artists than I'd expected, and had intelligent things to say about composition and color choices. "You have good taste," he said. "These aren't random decorations. You picked each piece because it means something to you." "How can you tell?" I asked, genuinely curious. Oliver pointed to a small watercolor of a lighthouse that I'd bought at a craft fair years ago. "This isn't expensive or famous, but it's positioned where you'll see it every morning from your kitchen. It makes you happy in a way that has nothing to do with its monetary value. That's how someone decorates when they actually live in their space instead of just occupying it." The insight was startlingly accurate. Derek had always criticized my apartment as cluttered and unimpressive compared to his friends' places. Oliver saw the intention behind my choices and appreciated the emotional landscape I'd created. We sat on my couch drinking coffee and talking about travel dreams, family dynamics, and career disappointments until almost midnight. "I should go," Oliver said finally. "Early classes tomorrow." He gathered his jacket and keys, then paused at my door. "I had a really good time tonight. Both nights, actually. Even the fake hospital emergency part." I kissed him then, impulsively but not regretfully. He tasted like coffee and wine and something that might have been possibility. "I had a good time too," I said against his lips. "Thank you for being patient with my chaos." Oliver smiled, running his thumb along my cheekbone. "Your chaos is actually pretty manageable, and definitely worth it." He kissed me once more before leaving, gentle and promising at the same time. After he left, I sat in my quiet apartment thinking about timing and choices, and the strange way life sometimes offers exactly what you need when you least expect it. The pregnancy test was still in my bathroom drawer, but my relationship with Derek felt like something that had happened to a different person. Oliver had shown me what it felt like to be genuinely cared for by someone who didn't want to change or fix or control me. I texted Derek the next morning. "We need to talk. There's something important I need to tell you." He responded 3 hours later with K. No questions about what was important or when we should meet or whether I was okay. Just acknowledgement that he'd received information requiring his attention. The contrast with Oliver's immediate concern about fictional medical emergencies was stark and clarifying. Derek came over that evening still wearing his work clothes and checking his phone constantly. "What's the big emergency?" he asked, settling onto my couch like he owned it. His attitude reminded me why I'd been planning to end things before the pregnancy complicated everything. "I'm pregnant," I said directly. "The test was positive yesterday." Derek's reaction was exactly what I'd expected. Panic, then immediate questions about whether I was sure, whether it could be someone else's, what I planned to do about it. No acknowledgement that this might be overwhelming for me. No offer of support or partnership in figuring things out. Just concern about how my pregnancy would affect his life and plans. "We can't have a baby right now," Derek said, as if I'd suggested getting a pet instead of announcing an unplanned pregnancy. "I'm not ready for that kind of responsibility." "Are you going to, take care of it?" The euphemism felt cowardly and dismissive. "I don't know yet," I said honestly. "I need time to think about all my options." Derek stood up, already reaching for his keys. "Well, let me know what you decide. But I can't do the kid thing right now. Too much going on with work and everything." He left without kissing me goodbye, without asking how I was feeling, without offering any emotional support whatsoever. His departure felt like final confirmation that our relationship had been an elaborate waste of time. I called Oliver an hour later, crying again but for different reasons. "Can I see you?" I asked without preamble. Something happened and I could really use a friend right now. Oliver didn't hesitate. "Of course. Do you want me to come over or do you want to meet somewhere?" The immediate availability in his voice reminded me why I'd started falling for him in the first place. "Come over," I said. "And Oliver? This time there really is a crisis." He arrived 20 minutes later with Thai food and the same pharmacy bag from 2 nights ago, which apparently contained a comprehensive collection of comfort supplies. "What's going on?" he asked gently, setting food on my counter and giving me his full attention. "I'm pregnant," I said, deciding honesty was less exhausting than elaborate deception. "That's why I canceled our first date. I found out right before dinner and completely panicked." Oliver absorbed this information without visible reaction, which was somehow exactly the right response. "How are you feeling about it?" he asked. "Terrified," I admitted. "The father is my ex-boyfriend, who just made it very clear he wants nothing to do with parenthood. I haven't decided what I want to do yet, but I know I can't make that decision based on what he wants or doesn't want. It has to be what's right for me." Oliver nodded thoughtfully. "That makes sense. It's your choice to make." We ate Thai food and talked about options, timelines, and practical considerations without Oliver offering unwanted advice or trying to influence my decision. He asked thoughtful questions about my support system, my financial situation, and my feelings about single parenthood. The conversation felt mature and respectful in a way that highlighted how inadequate Derek's response had been. "Can I ask you something?" Oliver said as we were cleaning up dinner dishes. "Of course. What made you realize you needed to end things with your ex?" I thought about how to answer honestly. He showed me who he really was during a crisis, and I didn't like what I saw. When things got difficult, he disappeared instead of stepping up. Oliver dried dishes while I washed, working together in comfortable rhythm. "For what it's worth, I think you're handling this with a lot of courage. Facing an unplanned pregnancy and ending a relationship at the same time would overwhelm most people, but you're thinking clearly about what you need and want. That's impressive." The validation felt like oxygen after holding my breath. We spent the next few weeks seeing each other regularly, while I worked through my decision about the pregnancy. Oliver never pushed for more commitment, or tried to position himself as Derek's replacement. He just consistently showed up when I needed support, listened without judgment, and treated me like someone whose choices deserved respect. The miscarriage happened naturally at 8 weeks, which resolved the pregnancy question in the most emotionally complicated way possible. I was relieved and devastated simultaneously, grateful not to face impossible decisions while mourning the potential future I'd been starting to imagine. Oliver took care of me through the medical appointments and emotional processing without making it about his own feelings or needs. "How are you doing with all of this?" I asked him one evening as we sat on my couch sharing a pint of ice cream. "It can't be easy dating someone who's dealing with pregnancy scares and complicated ex situations." Oliver considered the question seriously. "Honestly, it's made me more sure about wanting to be with you, not less. I've seen how you handle real problems, and I like who you are under pressure." The insight surprised me. Most men would have been scared away by the drama and emotional intensity of the past few weeks. Oliver had been drawn closer by seeing me navigate genuine crisis. "What do you mean?" I asked. "You're brave," he said simply, "and kind, even when you're scared. And you make decisions based on your values instead of just taking the easy way out. Those are the qualities I want in a partner." 6 months later, Oliver moved into my apartment, not because of dramatic declarations of love or grand romantic gestures, but because we'd tested our compatibility during actual hardship and discovered we worked well together. He brought his books and his morning writing habit and his tendency to show up with flowers when I had bad days. We got engaged a year after that, during a completely ordinary evening when we were cooking dinner together and talking about whether we wanted kids someday. "Yes," I said when he asked, "but not just someday. I want them with you." Oliver proposed 3 days later with a ring he'd apparently been carrying around for weeks, waiting for the right moment. "I love you because you lied about your aunt being in the hospital," Oliver said during his wedding vows 18 months later. "Not because lying is good, but because even when you were falling apart, you didn't want to hurt my feelings by rejecting me directly. You're considerate even in crisis, honest even when it's hard, and brave even when you're scared." I married someone who'd seen me at my absolute worst and decided he wanted to build a life with that person. Someone who showed up during emergencies, real and imagined. Someone who treated love like a choice you make every day instead of just a feeling that happens to you. The fake medical crisis that brought us together had been the most honest thing about my previous relationship.